Alright, welcome to today's lesson on an introduction to management, where we're going to focus on organizations. So what is an organization? Well, an organization is basically a collection of people working together towards a common goal. This goal could be a product that's being produced and sold, it could be a service that's being rendered for somebody, but basically we're all working towards that same ideal. This organization term includes all types of businesses, both large corporations and small mom and pop shops. Includes non-profit organizations like the Canadian Blood Services or Red Cross or other fundraising companies, churches, schools, and so on. And each of these organizational types all share three common characteristics. The first is that each one of them has a goal or distinct purpose that organization is striving towards. Again, that could be a good that's being produced or a service that's being rendered. Each organization also has people employed by it. These are individuals that are assigned specific and distinct tasks from each other to make sure that that job overall is done. And finally, organizations all have some sort of organizational structure. This is a level-by-level structuring or increasing of job responsibility in order to accomplish the goal. So it's basically the graph of who reports to who. You've got the upper management, the middle management, lower management, and frontline employees. Now, recently, organizations have begun to change quite significantly from what they were 20 to 30 years ago. This is because today's workplace is much more dynamic. The changes that are happening at a much more rapid pace than they ever have before. And this is largely because of 6 factors: intellectual capital, globalization, technology, diversity, ethics, and careers. And we'll take a look at each one of those in a little bit more detail. So traditionally, capital was only including tangible things I could hold in my hands. So basically anything that money could buy. So the wealth of a particular company consisted of the buildings that they were in, the machines that we could use to produce the goods, and the goods themselves. But now, times have changed. Before, workers were basically working for one company, one career their entire lives. But now workers are less and less loyal to their original companies and changing jobs much more frequently. So what's happening is that same worker now is getting trained by a particular company and maybe working for them for a few years, and then they leave oftentimes to a competitor where they take that skill and knowledge and use it directly against that old employee. Well, organizations are starting to become aware of this trend and now are starting to be placing a much higher value on what we call intellectual capital. This is the collective brain power or shared knowledge of an entire workforce. So we're starting to realize that time and effort that is spent into training and perfecting those employees is worth as much as the machines and products that they begin to produce. The second change that's happening is globalization. So 20 years ago, if you wanted to do business with someone on the other side of the world, you were limited in your options to do so. You might have to send letters through the mail, or you'd have to buy a plane ticket to fly all the way over there. It took a lot longer to get that same work done. But now, as a result of the internet technology, we're able to conduct business over video chats, instant messaging, and we can even share computer screens across vast distances. This is creating what we call globalization, or a worldwide interdependence of resources, products, and business competition, where things that are occurring in one part of the world are dependent on things that are happening in another part of the world. The single probable most important factor that is driving all of the other 5 in this list is technology. Technology is what makes all of these things happen, and as technology becomes cheaper and more advanced, it also becomes more accessible, so more and more companies, more and more individuals, and more parts of the world can be partaking in these advancements in the way that business works. Managers all over the world are starting to use smartphones, laptops, tablets, and so on in order to change the way that we're communicating with each other. This technology allows people to work from virtually anywhere and send their work to anywhere else, thus promoting things like globalization, intellectual capital, and so on. Another change is the change in the amount of diversity that is occurring in the workplaces today. So workforce diversity is the differences in your gender, race, age, ethnicity, and so on. All the different things that make individual people unique. Now, since organizations are by definition made up of groups of those people, we are starting to have much more diversity in those groups inside the organizations. So it's much more important for managers today to be aware of these differences and learn how to leverage and celebrate them and use them to succeed and use them to make the company stronger and better, as opposed to engaging in prejudice or discrimination and pushing them away. The next topic that has changed is ethics. Especially again with the rise in technology, things happen much more quick, much more fast, and get out to a much wider audience. Ethics is specifically a set of moral standards, or what people individually or collectively believe to be quote-unquote good or right in the way that you do things. So it is very important for organizations today to engage in ethical behavior with respect to all stakeholders. That is, their employees, that is, the people who are purchasing from them, that means the community around where those companies exist, and so on. There are two reasons for this. Number one, it's just the right thing to do. And number two, there is a great risk to an organization making unethical decisions. At the end of the day, once these decisions get out to the general public, it can really hit the bottom line. There are many recent corporate scandals that we can think of that can result in a devastating impact on that organization. So for example, Nike in the 90s got accused of using sweatshops, and as a result, over the following years, they lost massive amount of shares. Their stocks plummeted by 50% or more, while all their competitors like Adidas and Reebok started growing much stronger. And it's taken them a long time, the last 20 years or so, to start getting back to where they were before and changing their brand and getting rid of that sweatshop image. And finally, the last thing that's changing is careers. This course and every other high school course that you've taken so far or are going to take are currently preparing you for jobs that don't yet exist in a workplace that doesn't yet exist. Change is happening so fast that we can't even predict what kind of jobs you are going to be doing in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So that's why we need to focus on things that are going to help you learn to learn quickly, work efficiently, and problem solve effectively. And these are basically the real nature of what a manager's job is, being able to think on the fly, problem solve anything that might come up whenever it happens. So that's it. That's all we've got for today. We'll see you tomorrow where we can practice what we've learned.